After the season opener against the New York Knicks, where the Celtics hit a record-tying 29 three-pointers, there was a lot of pearl-clutching from the usual older NBA fan crowd that is none too pleased with what the three-point revolution has brought to the modern NBA, feeling as though this current version of the Celtics and what their influence means for the rest of the league is a sign of decline for the quality of the actual basketball product the NBA is presenting. Now, I feel like we have a conversation resembling this, specifically about offense, and offense is directly connected to three-point shooting in terms of what it means for modern offenses. So this discussion happens all the time at this point of the year, especially because people are just kind of getting their memory freshened on, yeah, there's a lot of three-pointers that go up in the modern NBA, but as much as this discourse is repetitive and we do it every year, well, here I am to cash in on doing it yet again, because my life is a never-ending repeat of the same exact cycle with only slightly different variables, and then one day I'm going to die. Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Buckets. If you're over on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe and drop a like on this video, and if you want to enjoy this as an audio-only platform, as I mostly just yap here and there isn't too much of a visual element to this, although there will be some in this video and will be some more going forward, go ahead and check us out over on audio platforms, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Those links will be in the description. And one last thing, an abridged version of the podcast is being posted on this channel once a week. Not sure what day yet, but it's going to be a shortened version, 30 to 45 minutes, and then a longer version will be available over on the Shoot Around channel. All of these links are in the description, and if you click on any of them, you're beautiful. If you don't and you just want to keep on watching, then you're also beautiful, I guess, but maybe slightly less. All right, now first off, I just want to clarify out of the gate, and I'm probably going to start doing this a little bit more often, just like a very quick disclaimer, because a lot of people click on these videos and don't actually know me at all and don't actually know what my perspective typically is, and they're willing to listen to it, and I appreciate that, but there are some assumptions that will come with it depending on what I'm saying in that particular video. In my video covering the game that we're going to be talking about mostly in this one, Celtics versus Knicks, the season opener, I had quite a few people going, "Are you a Knicks fan? You seem like a Knicks fan," just based on the way that I was talking about Karl Anthony Towns and the fact that I paid them more attention than the Celtics overall. The reality is, I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, tragically, and I tend to divert my attention around the league based on just what teams interest me, and it's no deeper than interest. I don't really have any particular franchise that I hate. I do have the occasional roster that I hate throughout history, although there isn't really one right now. I don't personally understand the hating a franchise because I've never had a franchise that fucked with my team a bunch, because they were never really in any kind of contention to begin with. Just getting out of the way, I don't really like the Celtics. In fact, if you followed most of my discussion of the Celtics over the last year or so, it mostly leans negative, despite the fact that this is one of the most dominant teams historically in NBA history. In the case of Boston, I don't love their play style from an entertainment standpoint. That's definitely not the main thing I get out of watching them, is just like, oh yeah, this is the most diverse, interesting basketball that I have ever seen. Now, what even entertaining means is difficult to unpack because that varies from person to person, but there is something from an X's and O's standpoint that the visual lack of interest or just the dislike of that playstyle has led to people saying stuff that is ignorant about the actual basketball on the floor, and that is mostly what bothers me about this whole thing. Like, what you are entertained by is subjective, but don't use your lack of entertainment to then not look at it critically, and because you're not looking at it critically, you just assume there's nothing to it besides for these guys are chucking three-pointers. To me, this guy chucks threes is like the dog whistle of the three-point hater. A dog whistle being an expression you say that isn't supposed to mean what you're saying on the surface, but if you look beneath it, they mean some darker shit than what they're saying. In the case of translating that same idea to three-point shooting, when they're saying this, it's not necessarily like they're outright hating on threes, but if you hear someone use the term "they're chucking threes," odds are that is a person who hates threes. A lot of people are accusing the game of becoming dumbed down, and that dumbed down version of the game being homogenized across the league, meaning that everybody is essentially adopting this play style. Now, there's a conversation to be had about how many teams in the league are even really capable or trying to replicate Boston's play style. I think it's a little reductive to act like just everybody plays like Boston right now, because that's not fucking true. How often and how well these teams can replicate what Boston is doing, that's a conversation I am going to put a pin in. Just from the standpoint of this being quote-unquote shot chucking, that is what I'm focused on. This isn't true. The reason that Boston was able to get as many three-pointers as they were was not because of taking a bunch of threes, forcing them, dumb shots, a bunch of ridiculous pull-ups in the defender's face, and then they were just hitting them anyways because they have shooting luck, or shooting has gotten so good that defense does not matter. In reality, there was a bunch of pretty complex and interesting offensive approaches that resulted in open three after open three for the Celtics. Basketball is really fundamentally about two things. It is rhythm and decision making, and you use your decision making to put yourself in the best position to develop a rhythm. If you have a team full of excellent decision makers who are playing unselfishly as the Boston Celtics do, then you are going to find yourself getting into a rhythm rather easily and rather consistently. Let's take a look at Boston's makes against the Knicks. I have my game notes journal here. I am going to be tallying all of their threes into three different categories. The first category is going to be essentially you're like, bullshit, I'm just taking this three because you're supposed to take threes. Pull up, deep shot, contested, a kind of ridiculous shot that would get you benched in the 90s is what I'm getting at. The other type of three is off of an offensive board, or maybe there's a loose ball in a scramble and then someone finds themselves open. That type of three-pointer. And then the final is a three-pointer that is made off of a really well-developed offensive play where they're able to get an opening because the defense was not able to keep up with what they had going on. We are going to be breaking down all of these. I've not done like an actual film breakdown in God knows how long, and it's not something I do frequently, but I'm going to try to introduce it a little bit, and we'll see how you guys feel about it. But I'm going to break down all these threes, and then I'm going to show you my tally by the end of it, as well as explaining to you why I'm categorizing them the way that I am. First play here is a screen from Holiday, and they are trying to attack Karl Anthony Towns because he's going to play drop here, which to be honest doesn't make a lot of sense because it's not like Al Horford is some super terrifying rolling threat. This is going to be a walk-in jumper for an open three-pointer off of that screen. Honestly, watching back this footage, two main things stood out to me. One was Jason Tatum and his role in the playmaking, and two was how many times Karl Anthony Towns got hung out to dry. Many a times because of the perimeter defender fucking that up. But okay, so there was a pull-up three. We'll call that, I mean, it's wide open is the thing, so I'm going to call that just a good play to get open. Jason Tatum is so good at pull-up three-point shooting, that's a good shot. This one as well. Al Horford, I mean, it's not a super complicated play, but hey, you got to recognize the mismatch there. You got to recognize that you left a shooter completely wide open. This is definitely an off-the-scramble three. This is just, what are you going to do? The ball bounces around. That's part of basketball. There's only so much of it that's actually in your hands. So on this play, I don't know what OG is doing. I don't really know what Cat is doing because he's waiting at the paint, which I guess is his job as a big, but OG is so committed specifically to Al Horford in this corner. Between these two, I'd probably rather give Al Horford the three, but either way, you're just incredibly out of position because Jalen Brunson has committed to Derek White here, and Josh Hart has to choose between Drew Holiday and Jaylen Brown. One way or the other, you're going to be giving up a wide open three-pointer. That is smart basketball and defensive lapses from the New York Knicks. Obviously, Cat was out of position there, but a lot of it, especially given that OG has more of a defensive reputation, the onus is on him to actually be in the right position, and he was not. Jericho Sims dropping on this screen, not at all ready for the pull-up. Josh Hart does get a decent contest, enough on it that I will call it a forced three just for the boomers out there. Trying to be nice here. On this play, once again, same thing. Sims does not step up. That's another contested pull-up, though. And this is yet another one over Jericho Sims. So Jason Tatum just fully taking advantage of the slower big man there. Now, I want you to notice right here, two guys on Jason Tatum. Why is that happening? Well, maybe because he has hit every fucking pull-up three-pointer he's taken over the defense. I think that's that last one was his 4th. So now they're like, fuck it, we're throwing everybody at you. Keeps the defense out of position. Drew Holiday throws this fucking lob to Kornet. Actually, never mind. This is stupid. This was the play that was just a scramble. I thought this was a different play because I previewed all these clips just to get an idea of what I was going to say. Sam Hauser, inbound 3 off of a screen, I believe, from Kornet. That's just a good play. Not that complex, but a good play. Here, double on Jason Tatum, especially because Karl Anthony Towns is on an island and McBride wants to help on that. Peyton Pritchard then gets the wide open at corner 3. He was a near 40% three-point shooter last season, so that's a free bucket, basically. Again, not the best defense there by the New York Knicks. Drew Holiday loses the ball. Tillman gets the offensive rebound. This is definitely an off of a scramble three-pointer for Al Horford in the corner. So here, I assume there has been a screen action that has somehow gotten both OG and McBride behind him. Unfortunately, I don't have the build up to the clip in the middle of it. Now OG is just fucking scrambling. So he goes over to contest the Jaylen Brown 3, because at this point, the way this game's going, he's assuming that shot's going up. Commits to him, and then Jalen Brunson's able to just get right by him. So now McBride has to step up. He goes for the charge here, but he smartly Euros around him, kicks it out. Drew Holiday has time to take a dribble. That's excellent basketball. That's attacking a closeout, and it's generating an open opportunity. Sam Hauser chases down the ball off of an offensive board. That is an off of the scramble three-pointer. Jason Tatum shoots it right over Mikal Bridges. Got a shitload of space, but I'll categorize that as a very modern type of three-pointer. Get you benched in the 90s type of thing. This play right here, to me, is quintessentially Celtics. So Jason Tatum has been burning every one-on-one matchup they put on him, whether it's Jericho Sims off of this screen or Mikal Bridges. So Jericho Sims is now saying, fuck drop coverage. I am stepping up and I am trapping you. Kornet slips down the middle. McBride has to both get in front of 7-foot Luke Kornet, but also not give Derek White this layup in the dunker spot. So he goes over to body Kornet. Jalen Brunson now has to rotate over to Derek White. Wide open Peyton Pritchard. Jalen Brunson rotates over a more wide open and better shooter Derek White, cashes the corner 3. So this play started, and this is a big reason why Jason Tatum can often be super underrated as a playmaker, because a lot of the times where he makes a play, it does not end in an assist. He's been punishing the one-on-one matchup, so the defense is more concerned about that than ever. He brings 2 to the ball off of this screen, and then his teammates just have to make good decisions from there. And luckily, everyone on this fucking team makes excellent decisions. Peyton Pritchard, that was a good three-point look, but the Celtics pass up a good look for a great one. Derek White cashes that corner 3. Ball back to Jason Tatum, top of the key, screen from Kornet. Once again, whips a pass across to Derek White because McBride is ball watching, and he's waiting for this roll from Kornet, given how it burned them last time. So he's about to step in and show here on this roll, and it gives just enough space that Tatum can get that crazy skip pass across the court, and that's an open shot for him. This is a star player shot right there. That is yeah, you take that shit if you're one of the best players on the court, and that's it. This one, I'm going to count that as just simply a smart play for attacking the mismatch. Cat, being the slower-footed player, is playing for the drive here. He'd rather Jalen take a 3 than just beat him to the basket. So it just takes this little jab where it looks like he's going. He's got exactly enough space right there. He's already into the upward momentum of the release. That contest might as well not even be there. Screen from Horford. 2 defenders on Tatum. Once again, jump pass to Derek White. Little bit of a late contest from Brunson. It wasn't a nothing contest. I will put that into the forced threes category, though, because it was quite deep and there was not a nothing contest on it, that's for sure. This is a pull-up 3 on the fast break over a taller defender with not much going on offense. I'll categorize it as a forced 3, I suppose. Once again, we have a play created off of a double on Tatum. Cat and Mikal Bridges are both trying to put pressure on Tatum. So that gives Al Horford this wide open shot based on this pocket pass. But good shot for a great shot. Wide open corner three to Drew Holiday, who I believe led the league in corner threes last year. Screen, Horford, Bridges. That's just a crazy fucking shot. That is a superstar shot. Again, not something I would get mad at, but I'd understand if a boomer gets mad at it. This one, again, great basketball. They do not want to give Tatum the one-on-one matchup with Karl Anthony Towns. Whether that's a three-pointer on the pull-up or whether that's a drive, that is a nightmare situation. So Mikal Bridges is literally jumping around this screen. It looks goofy as hell right there. But he's trying to put pressure on Jason. So quick behind-the-back pass to Al Horford. And it's funny how many of these plays are Jalen Brunson just swinging over to defend one and then getting way out of position for another. He keeps finding himself on these islands. But that is excellent basketball. That is a really, really strong play. Double once again. Look at both of these guys on Jason Tatum. OG is rotating over Al because he's expecting the pass to be to Al, but he gets it to Derek White. Derek White brings in the attention of Josh Hart. Once again, Jalen Brunson is left to hopelessly chase down and contest a shot that he has no chance of influencing at all. Jericho Sims one-on-one matchup. This is something you're going to want to attack, and he's just going to shoot it right the fuck over him. Down screen from Cornette for a Derek White catch and shoot. Bridges gets a decent hand up, but that is ultimately a good play and a good shot. Offensive board, Xavier Tillman, so Sam Hauser's wide open. That's an off of the scramble type of three. And I think we've got two more left before they just decided to never hit three-pointers again. That was a that was a bad three. That was like a when I say bad three, I'm trying to put this through the lens of like, all right, if you're someone who hates modern three-point shooting, this is the type of play where you're like, was that really the best shot you could get? The answer is he's already gotten into his release. Sims is over here. OG's behind him. He's got the blinders on. Like, that's not really that crazy of a contest. It looks more like it after the shot's already left his hands. But as long as the shooting pocket's unbothered, and then here we are once again. So Sims is on Jaylen Brown, so he's not there to protect the basket. Really, they should switch this real quick because I think they can get away with that. Tillman finds this cutting Pritchard, so Bridges wants to stay there to protect the rim. He anticipates the pass, but not well enough. He's too far away to get there. So that's a wide open corner three from Al Horford. That is another really well-ran play. And I think that's the last one. Yeah, my tally. All right, is this gonna be backwards for y'all? I don't fucking know. Hey guys, real quick, sorry to interrupt, but there is a new main channel video out right now called The Wilt Chamberlain Paradox, or The Truth About Wilt Chamberlain, something along those lines. Go check it out. It is about high volume scoring and its positive and negative effects on the game, how we should evaluate it. And it's a very good time. I put a lot of effort into it, a lot of fun stuff with the editing in terms of like era-like filters. But yeah, go check that out. A lot of hard work on it from the entire team because we have a team now. Sorry, you can go. We talk about the Celtics now. Sheesh, I'm sorry, guys. Damn. So there were 10 forced three-pointers, 5 off of the scramble, 12 off of great play to get open. So I didn't account for 2 of them. I am not good at paying attention to detail sometimes, so whoops, 2 of them didn't get categorized. Frankly, there were more pull-up three-pointers than I remembered. However, I put this caveat here. Maybe 3 of these three-pointers were actually like quote-unquote bad shots by my summation. But if you're someone who really hates pull-ups, and let's say you can really only tolerate a couple of them. I mean, Jason Tatum was so on fire, especially you could tolerate a couple of them. But like, to me, there was not that high volume of three-point shots that it was like, man, these guys just wanted to shoot a 3. They decided before the possession started that they're going to shoot a 3. It's not really how it works. And the pull-up 3 is to put pressure on the defense to open up the opportunity for higher percentage three-pointers for more catch-and-shoot opportunities. With that said, we're done reviewing the footage. I just want to make it very clear. The Boston Celtics are not like, it's not like they have hacked basketball by deciding, you know what, we're done with offense. Y'all are done with the 90s. We're done with offense. We don't do offense anymore. What we do is we shoot three-pointers and we hope for the best. The reality is they work very well as a team to generate these shots all the time, and I feel like this shit gets dumbed down to the shot itself. Like, we're going to ignore every second of what went into this before the actual shot itself. Alex actually made a great point about this on the podcast. I'm going to clip it, and I want you guys to watch it here. It's essentially the point I was about to make, but he does it better than me.
They're looking at the result of the play, which fans see a made three with 5 seconds left on the shot clock. They see the made three, and that's the only thing that sticks in their head is the made three. And they come away from that possession, they're like, no, last possession ended in a made three. They come back down the floor. Guess what? There's 20 seconds taken off of the shot clock. It's another made three. They forget about the previous 20 seconds of the shot clock where they're going through their half-court offense, getting to the point where they get an open three, and all they remember is the result of the possession, which was a made three. And that's the only thing that sticks in their head. And they ignore everything else that happened. And then they get mad, and they're like, why is nobody talking about X's and O's? Why am I not learning? This is why I love the NFL so much more, because the NFL educates their fans. It's, I want to learn about the game. But then they get on Twitter and they watch Celtics-Knicks opening night, and they sit there and they go, oh, they're taking too many threes. What is this? The game's becoming too homogenized. This is awful. This is such a bad product. Adam Silver needs to step in. He needs to implement new rules. And it's like, you want to learn more about the game, but then the only thing you're looking at is the end result of the possession. And you ignore everything else that the Celtics were doing. And I'm not saying that it's like the Spurs' beautiful game level of stuff, but the Celtics do really interesting stuff in the half court. It's very smart, designed basketball where if you pay attention, you're going to learn a lot.
Frankly, as far as I'm concerned, Boston is pulling off some beautiful game San Antonio Spurs type shit. Everyone is working to get everyone else an open shot no matter what, and they will pass up a good shot for a great one. Pretty much everybody can attack a closeout. Everybody is an excellent passer and decision maker. And almost all of these guys are very, very good three-point shooters. Let's look at Boston's shooting numbers as a team last year. Last year, Jason Tatum, 8 threes a game, 37.5%. Derek White, just under 7 a game, 39.6%. Sam Hauser, 42.5% on 6 a game. 6 a game from Jaylen Brown, 35. That's the one that's not that great. That's not a remarkable percentage by any means. 37's also not remarkable. It's around league average, but you got to factor in that Jason Tatum is a high-volume pull-up three-point shooter. Porzingis, 37.5%. Also pretty solid, especially for your fucking center taking 5 threes a game. Drew Holiday, 4.7 a game, shoots 43%. Peyton, 4.7 a game, shoots 38.5%. Al Horford, 42%. Everybody who is a major rotational piece for this team shoots at least 4 three-pointers a game. And the worst is Jaylen Brown at 35%. Next worst after that is just under 38%. And then you have 1, 2, 3 dudes over 40. 2 dudes you can basically round up to get them to 40. So we are talking about an insanely talented three-point shooting team. So this is bringing me to the point about this being this homogenized, everybody is playing the game this way. I think what is triggering this conversation a lot is that there's been a couple of teams and players who have placed an emphasis on three-point shooting specifically this year. Not that that's abnormal, but it does seem abnormally high. We have the Phoenix Suns as well as the Los Angeles Lakers who have made it very clear that an increased three-point volume is going to be a staple difference between their season now versus last year. On top of that, Anthony Edwards is taking 15 threes a game right now and shot 15 threes a game in the preseason. I think he's maybe overdoing that a little bit. Evan Mobley and Bam Adebayo are shooting three-pointers. The day I am recording this video, Zach Edey hit a catch-and-shoot corner 3. So, yes, there have been some players shooting some threes who were not shooting threes before who are not doing it on the volume they were doing it before, and teams who are doing exactly that. However, I think people are thinking a little too simply when they say that everyone's just copying the Celtics. Now, it's a copycat league. There are things about the Celtics that other teams are going to try to replicate. That happens anytime a team wins a championship, pretty much. Again, think of the quality of shooters that Boston has. How many teams can say they have that many good three-point shooters? And then, beyond that, how many of those teams can say that pretty much all of those guys are strong at attacking closeouts. At least their core players are, their starters are. All of them are really good decision makers. Jaylen Brown is an okay one. That's pretty much the only area where they're genuinely not phenomenal positionally, decision-making wise. Sam Hauser is also fucking whatever. But like, pretty much everybody can attack a closeout. Pretty much everybody can make a really good pass. And pretty much everybody is a damn near 40% three-point shooter. So when you're defending this team, you can't overcommit for any of their threes, despite the fact they're excellent shooters, because if you do, one of them is going to drive inside. It's going to break down your defense. You're going to naturally have to rotate over to get in front of that so they don't get a layup, and then boom, you've left a three-point shooter open, and that guy is going to make that pass every time because he is smart and aware enough to make that pass. I could see the OKC Thunder doing it. That's about it. Another thing to factor here is that offense isn't like the main catalyst to me and why the Celtics won. It was their defense, and their offense many, many times in games where they still won was just good enough. Now, they were first in offensive rating last year, I'll give you that, but it was not by like some wide margin. It was a very, very close thing across the league for a couple of teams. But also, in the playoffs, they were third in offensive rating. And they were just 0.7 points in offensive rating above the Philadelphia 76ers, who were not exactly known as some beacon of remarkable NBA offense last year or in the postseason, but their defense was by far and away the best to a degree that they could have an off shooting night. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both shot in the low 30s from three during the playoffs this last year. I think Jason and Jaylen are at like 32-ish%. It didn't ultimately matter because the defense was good enough. But the play style offensively itself, if you removed all the defense from the equation, let's just say the Celtics were they were the 10th best defense in the league, but not like definitely the best. In that case, the fallibility of the offense would be that more obvious. Like, for example, I was talking about with the Knicks thing, like a lot of the offense for the Celtics is generated because Jason Tatum gets the attention of the defense, and then they turn that attention and the defense being out of place with everybody else into an open three-pointer, whether that be him making that pass or one of his teammates making the pass, and the players who are doubling, scrambling to try and contest. That is generally how their offense works. In the playoffs, when Jason Tatum was having his off shooting nights, well, the defense feels a little bit more comfortable giving you that one-on-one matchup and saying, we don't really need to crash the whole fucking defense right now for a step-back Jason Tatum 3 that we're not that worried about. If he continues to hit them, as he did in that Knicks game and as he has through the first two games this year, well, that might be a different story, but otherwise, it's not a guarantee that he will actually put that much pressure on the defense all the time. It depends how hot he is, and that's an extremely... You're basing your system on something that is extremely fallible. For most NBA teams, there is a threshold of how many threes you can take before it starts to be a net negative, because there are only so many shots you can take, and at a certain point, if you're taking too many threes, you're probably forcing them. But the Celtics shoot threes in a way that is not forcing them. They have excellent shooters, decision makers, and cutters, and attackers of closeouts that generate these threes to a degree that is irreplicatable for the rest of the league. You would have to very specifically go out of your way to design your roster this way, and you also would have to get incredibly lucky in terms of asset management. Consider what had to happen for this Boston Celtics roster to come together. First of all, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, lottery picks from the Brooklyn Nets because they made one of the worst trades in the history of this fucking sport. The Marcus Smart draft pick was also from that, which they eventually used along with other capital, I believe, to get Kristaps Porzingis. They might have actually just straight up traded Marcus Smart to get Kristaps Porzingis. They also traded a first, I think maybe it was two, but I think it was just one first for Derek White, which in hindsight is crazy because he had already displayed plenty of ability on the San Antonio Spurs. And then Drew Holiday falls in their lap because of the fucking Damian Lillard trade. Portland is looking to give him away for very minimal assets, so they send Robert Williams and some draft capital, and now they have another incredible defender who's a great passer and a pretty fucking good three-point shooter. This team was assembled under extreme circumstances. They play a brand of basketball that is associated with the extreme circumstances of that personnel, and then everyone's acting like every other team in the league is going to become this, or like some bastardized version of it that's just slightly worse. That's silly. The thing about basketball that is so beautiful to me, the thing that keeps me invested in it year after year after year, is how not unmalleable everything is. Like, the game is not set in stone. There are ebbs and flows to how things are approached, and there are multiple ways to win this game. And I think the ideology or the thinking of this is how the game is supposed to be played, it's a very backwards, boring, disinterested way of engaging with the world. And frankly, not to get too serious here, but that type of viewpoint probably shapes how you look at other things in this world, and probably shapes how you look at your own life. And to me, I get such a pessimism from these types of fans where I'm like, what are you even doing here? Why are you watching the sport at this point if all you're going to do is bitch about it? Especially if you're covering the sport professionally, especially fucking former NBA players. How about, if you don't like it, you can go ahead and step aside for someone who will have the enthusiasm and enjoyment of the actual sport itself, and will not confuse their lack of understanding of the game for it being dumbed down. To me, it's very, very frustrating. I don't understand the perspective. It is an infallible play style under extreme circumstances that has not really been homogenized. Teams shoot threes, but we're not going to see some NBA where every shot is a three-pointer, all right? This isn't a fucking Kenny My League. Basketball will never work that way. One of the main tenets of modern NBA spacing is how it opens up the opportunity to get to the rim. So if you're just shooting threes, it's just becoming a different sport at that point, and that's not what's happening. It's just not. If you are looking at the game very roughly and going, wow, that possession ended in a three-pointer, again, all these guys do is shoot threes. They're just chucking threes. You are having a narrow-minded view of the game, and you are coming to that narrow-minded-ass conclusion and confusing your narrow-minded-ass conclusion for what the reality of the world is. It's not the reality of the world, it's what you've deluded yourself into believing because you're terrified of change. That's just not good for anybody, and it's certainly not good for the enjoyment of the sport for yourself. To me, the notion that basketball is supposed to be one way or the other, fuck you, man. It's not. It's not supposed to be one way or the other. It can be whatever it needs to be. The sport was invented by James Naismith to be an entertainment product. And sure, maybe this isn't how you enjoy the game, but it's clearly the way that a lot of other people do, because people wouldn't keep tuning in. Ironically, I feel like I'm starting to come off like a boomer towards boomers, but I don't know. I just don't get this. I don't get the pearl clutching that happens every single time. This is a unique roster with unique capabilities. It's not the entire NBA. I also think a lot of this stems from the first couple of games of the season always get a crazy overreaction because it's been a while since anyone's watched basketball, and like the first game is their only frame of reference for what the season is. So if the first game goes this way, it's like, fuck, the rest of the season is just gonna be this three-point shooting hellscape. But no, I assure you, if you look to the details of the game and you try to enjoy the nuances, you will find that there's a lot to what goes into these three-pointers, and it's not just simply a bunch of players throwing up dumb shots. I think I've made my point. Thank you a lot if you've heard me yap to this point. Go check out the Shoot Around podcast if you dare. But that is it. Shout out to Nick for editing this video, and goodbye.